Hello, my name is Chad Peterson. I work for Peterson Incorporated out of far west Ogden. I've been asked by the Leading to Lean company to put together a presentation about Peterson Inc.'s Leading to Lean journey. My role at Peterson Incorporated is along the lines of a process improvement specialist as well as a process engineer. I've been with the company now for over 4.5 years. My major role with Leading to Lean at Peterson Incorporated has been the initial installation, training, and development of the use of Leading to Lean within Peterson Incorporated. Our application of Leading to Lean within Peterson Incorporated is a little bit different than the maintenance portion that most of you may be used to. However, maintenance will be part of our Leading to Lean journey in the near future. I'll mention that later. I'll go ahead and get started, but before I get started, I just wanted to make note with all the quarantine stuff going on. My picture, if you guys have seen it, is a little bit older than what is currently up to date. A couple of weekends ago, I attempted to give myself a quarantine haircut. If any of you guys have seen the pictures of that going around, and it did not go well. And I was thinking about taking a new picture for this presentation, but I would have been bald or nearly bald, and so I decided to go ahead and take an old picture and submit it for this presentation. Anywho, I'll go ahead and get started. I've got a short video with the history of Peterson Inc. that Steve Peterson, the son of the founder, Dennis Peterson, will give a brief presentation and overview of the company, and we'll go from there.
Peterson Incorporated had humble beginnings. It really started with my mom and dad. They both worked for other companies, but they wanted a better life. And as my three sisters and I grew up, my dad took our garage, which was 20 feet by 20 feet, and converted it into a weld shop. We did welding that was kind of specialized, and all of us kids grew up in the weld shop. And that was really the start of Peterson Incorporated, which today is 1.5 million square feet under roof. It started in a little garage, 20 by 20. So when I turned 12 years old, my dad, that was a very gifted welder, he had done the welding on the lunar excursion module that landed on the moon. And he came to me one day and said, "Steve, I want to teach you my profession. Would you like to learn?" I said, "I'd love to, Dad." He said, "I'm going to teach you how to weld, but I'm going to teach you the most difficult type of welding, which is helium arc welding or TIG welding. And that's where you have a tungsten inert torch in one hand and you have a filler material in the other. And then you have to control the heat by your foot control." And it was very interesting how he taught me how to really weld. He didn't give me a manual, say, "Go read the manual and then you'll know how to weld." He put his arms around me and he put his right hand on my right hand and his left hand on my left hand and his foot on my right foot. And then we dropped our weld shields. He struck an arc and he said, "Do you see it?" I said, "See what?" And he said, "There's a shiny puddle of molten metal." And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." This went on for 3 or 4 times, and probably the 4th or 5th time, I said, "Dad, I see it." And as I looked at it, he said, "Now add the filler material." And as I felt the weld wire burn off into the puddle, I was joining metal to metal. And for me, that was the beginning of it. And it was my dad painting the picture of whether or not you see it. Do you really see it? And to me, that's been the foundation and the ongoing theme of Peterson Inc. for some 51 years that I've been involved in it. To see it, to have the vision of what we can do and what we can become. We can grow this business. It can flourish and thrive and bless the lives of hundreds and thousands of families.
So that was the brief vision of Peterson Incorporated. I just wanted to do my own little overview too of the company. Peterson has been a great company to work for. We do a lot of job shop type work, meaning nothing that we build is usually the same as it was last year. We do have some repeat work for customers, but I would say, over 50 of our work is one-off, large fabricated and machined weldments and assemblies. Some examples of the work that we've been involved in is recently Star Wars Land opened up within Disneyland, and we built both of the large steel fabrication weldments for both the Millennium Falcon ride as well as the Rise of the Resistance, which has been an amazing project to be part of. In the bottom left of the screen, you'll notice the large boom going across a mill. That mill has a build frame of over 120 feet by 12 feet tall. It's a horizontal mill, and we do a lot of machining on booms for Komatsu, giant buckets to lift and dig dirt at mining operations. And then in the top right is an example of some glove boxes that we build for the nuclear industry. And we are a NQA1 certified facility, along with other accomplishments that we have, or certifications that we have. Once again, another thing that I'd like to mention is just the Peterson operating way. It kind of envisions what Peterson is and how we operate on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's pretty cool to see that gear in the center. If you come through our facility, you'll likely go on a tour and see a lot of those items. Right at the center, anybody that knows how gear works knows that the employee is critical to the success of the Peterson operating way. They're the key, or the key within the gear. Without the employee, nothing turns and nothing functions. And our goal is to develop a culture of continuous improvement through various things like strategy deployment, visualization, daily improvement, loop closure, problem solving, and best practice sharing. And we feel like that leading to lean has allowed us to do that in a lot of things. So I'll just step into what our initial thoughts were, what led Peterson Inc. to leading to lean. One thing that we have constantly battled throughout our job shop existence in NQA1 work is excessive wait times for weld inspection. Something, if you ever asked a welder, what are you waiting for? What's slowing you down? He would always mention inspection. It was kind of his statement or excuse. Fortunately, we felt like this was an important data point to capture so that we could understand our capacity. A lot of our managers have been previously exposed to leading to lean or similar technology via AutoLeave. And we also had some initial contacts with JBT and AutoLeave to explore, how they were applying leading to lean within their facilities. Originally, our first thoughts when we were exposed to it years ago was maintenance, but we eventually arrived at using it for a quality response and dispatching tool. So after we, kind of decided that, hey, look, we needed something to take care of quality and quality dispatches and capture what time that's costing us so we could better understand the effect of quality wait times. We put together a scope that would basically deploy that throughout our facility, and we developed a cross-functional team that I led, and that team basically developed an action register and plan. Part of that action register was to launch and do a pilot area initially within one of our facilities. And part of that launch and that initial pilot, as well as the flow through the other buildings as we continue to progress forward, was daily meetings with production. And during those meetings with production, we would regularly talk about, are the dispatches working? Are people responding? Or why aren't they responding? And we continue to improve our L2L dispatch tool within the quality group. And then eventually, after about a month of a pilot within those groups, we did a launch to production throughout the full facility. And to this date, we're using Leading to Lean as our quality dispatch tool. So if any welder needs a inspector, that's kind of how he gets in contact with that team. I'll kind of explain how that works within our facility. So typically what happens is a welder or a machinist, anybody needs an inspector, they would input a Leading to Lean dispatch. So something that we've done, a lot of groups use their supervision or supervisors to input dispatch. We've actually trained our production employees. We have terminals throughout our facility, and the production employee walks up and inputs the call, right, or the dispatch. After the production employee inputs the dispatch, the supervision assigns the call. That's the quality supervision based around expertise and what is needed to be inspected. The inspector then responds based around priority, right? We've used different dispatches to prioritize the calls. And then we take and we harness that information from those dispatch calls to make us more aware of what our impact is on production, right? What are they waiting for? How long are they waiting for things? Anyway, we'll go ahead and I kind of want to show off the software. I'll go ahead and pull that up, and we'll kind of take a look at what we're doing within Leading to Lean. So this is kind of our main cloud dispatch. Within that, we have assigned basically buildings depending on where physically within our environment that the employee is working. I'll just pull them all up. As you can see here, we have a total open of 75 quality dispatches right now. We have a number that are in progress or being worked on, and all of them, or most of them, I would say, have been assigned already. And what you'll notice, we have several flavors of inspection. One is just a standard inspection, which means that the employee is, not waiting for the inspection, but it's in between processes. And then the other option is an in-process inspection. The in-process inspection means that the employee is being held up in relation to the inspection, right? So he cannot move on, and he's waiting for somebody, and those are typically prioritized within our group. As you can see with the job shop type work, things go up and down. We have a ton of open in-process dispatches, some of which have been completed and will be closed out later by the supervision. I just want to kind of pull up the way that we've kind of identified locations within our facility is generally an employee would select a building, and then based around that building, he has a couple of options. Specifically, we usually use columns to identify specific buildings within a location. We have a ton of columns that are marked within the facility. That employee can sort down to those columns and then give a location. I'll go ahead and input a location just to give you an example. So we'll say Far West Building 2, Bay 1, Column 10 on the north side. And then I am going to need you can select the specific inspection. Depending on what it is, if it's a weld inspection, an NDE tech, and then depending on the type of inspection, say you need a dimensional, you can say precision dimensional. That time you'll assign it a dispatch, whether you're in process, inspection. We have a number of others as well that we use. Generally, in process inspection or inspection is what goes down. The employee is welcome to enter a number of other information. However, at that time, when he hits create dispatch, a number of questions that are critical to our operation pull up, including the project number, the production order, what's the quantity, and who specifically is needing assistance. So right now we're currently using a general login for all of our production employees, and that allows us to basically leave the terminals out on the floor logged in at all times so that they can walk up to any of those terminals and input a dispatch. So that's kind of the gist of where we're at with the software. We are taking and harnessing the information from Leading to Lean, and we're importing it into what's called Power BI. And via Power BI, we're actually harnessing that information with our different dispatches, including response time, time to closure, average completed to closure time, right, which all of these are various information, the number of dispatches opened and closed within our facility on a daily basis or weekly. And I'll kind of go over that a little more in a second. So I'm going to pull back up to the to the presentation. So I just want to talk about maybe some of the experiments that we've kind of attempted since, using leading to lean to dispatch quality. We attempted to do a material handling dispatch, and you know what? We did not come up very successful. It was not widely used. There was too many rules on when you use the leading to lean to dispatch material handling. And that's primarily due to some conflicting terms with our ERP, which has been a struggle with that. One thing that we've also struggled with is on a couple of our departments, supervision decided that they wanted to be the only one to input dispatches, which has advantages and disadvantages. You don't really get a great response or a real accurate response time because they can put in the dispatch whenever. Another thing we struggled with is who is responsible to respond to certain dispatches. We think we've taken care of that by assigning physical locations to those and responsible parties to who assigns those. Another thing to mention is notifications. They're critical to telling people when and who needs help and how soon they need help. But that has been also something that has taken quite a while to develop, and to each group their own. And then another thing that we have that I didn't mention earlier was we have a facility in Idaho that's quite a bit smaller than our Ogden location. And we attempted to roll it out there, but due to the size of the facility, it wasn't really effective for dispatching quality. Just due to their size, it was a much more small operation that allows, just didn't really need it as much to understand that concept. But I'm going to move on to our next slide and, just talk about the data of what Leading to Lean has done for us as our inspection team goes. So initially, when we first started capturing the data, our overall response time to calls was roughly 10 hours, right? And so that's, an average of all of our calls, includes overnight timing, whatever. And then to now, our present dispatch response time is 2 hours, right, to somebody working on that call. So another thing to mention is, that's response time is call time. So what's the time that it takes somebody to get onto the call as well as to close the call? So initially we were at 17.5 hours. This is all inspection, down to 10 hours presently. Another thing to note is our in-process inspection, right? This is a fabricator or machinist waiting for an inspector, cannot work on anything else until that inspector gets out there. That response time has gone from 70 minutes to 20 minutes. That's currently not shown on the data shown on the screen. That data is just an example. And then in-process call time, right? So the time that it takes for a dispatch to open on an in-process inspection that's holding up a fabricator or machinist has gone from 226 minutes when we began down to 150 minutes now. So the data was harnessed using Power BI and the L2L API tool, and that's been very successful for us. So, skipped far ahead a little there, but the data is not necessarily where the value lies, but the value is that the groups were able to access the data, right? So we gave this via Power BI to our supervision and their teams, and during their daily meetings, they would discuss their response times. And using that data, they were able to, experiment and problem solve to say, what can we do to get a better response time? And sometimes it was just, we need more people, But other times it was, an improvement or an idea that allowed us to decrease our response time and actually visualize that now. And create responsibility for that as well. It's just been really effective for us in gathering this information and harnessing this information within our teams to create a cadence of accountability in relation to inspection dispatch times. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on. And I just want to talk about what's the next step for Leading to Lean at Peterson Incorporated. One thing that we're already starting and we've rolled into is using the maintenance portion of the software. We'll be using it for reactive maintenance, PMs and work orders, and also for TPM process, a total productive maintenance. Hopefully by harnessing the information of the reactive maintenance, we'll be able to develop TPMs that will help the operators keep the machines running longer and better. We would plan to revisit material handling in the future, and then eventually we'd like to, knowing that we're on a growth rate right now, or a growth spurt at Peterson Inc., develop Leading to Lean within our Idaho facility. That's pretty much all I have for my presentation today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm happy and open to questions. Please feel free to reach out to Leading to Lean. If you don't have my contact information, I'd be happy to answer questions related to how Peterson used Leading to Lean and how we're using it today. Thank you for your time. Bye.